right, we'll kickstart this edition of India's Agenda with some news just coming in this morning. Let's begin by telling you about President Droupadi Murmu's sortie in the Rafale jet. She is going to be taking a sortie in the Rafale jet. Mega Rafale sortie is going to take place in Ambala. Pictures are from the Ambala Air Force Station on your screens at this point in time, where the President would be taking a sortie. This is going to be in Haryana. Rafale jets were used during Operation Sindoor, launched by India in response to the 22nd of April dastardly Pahalgam terror attack. The President of India is taking a sortie in Ambala. Pictures are from the Ambala airbase at this point in time. In just some time from now, we'll in fact be seeing the President on board Rafale. Of course, the star of Operation Sindoor that was carried out by India in response to Pakistan. The President has previously also taken sorties, and this time around it's going to be Rafale. Earlier it was one Sukhoi 30 Make-1 fighter jet. Today she is taking a sortie in Ambala. India had used these jets to launch attacks on terrorist hideouts in Pakistan as part of Operation Sindoor. Earlier also we had seen former presidents like Pratibha, Patil and Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam undertake sorties as well. This was in the Sukhoi 30 Mark-1 fighter jet. This time around it is President Droupadi Murmu undertaking a sortie in the Rafale jet. I'm going to go straight across to Shivani for more details. A big message there. Also, Shivani, with the President undertaking a sortie, the star of Operation Sindoor in that sense, isn't it?
Certainly, Sneha, Rafales have been the star of Operation Sindoor because they were launched against Pakistan for Operation Sindoor. And President Droupadi Murmu, who happens to be the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, will be not only reviewing at the Ambala Air Force Station, but also taking a sortie out there. And the last sortie which she took was on Su-30 from Assam in April this year. And President Murmu has already proved that she has a lot of confidence in the power of the Indian Air Force. She's been taking these sorties. Now, as you were also mentioning, many other presidents, including APJ Abdul Kalam and Pratibha Patil, had also taken a sortie. But taking a sortie in Rafale is definitely different because Rafales are known to be the game changers since their induction in 2020, where they have been a part of major complex operations, not only in Operation Sindoor, but many other operations that are going on, the exercises that are going on. So when President will be a part of this sortie, this will again make history. From Ambala, she will be taking this sortie. So all eyes will be on President Murmu's this sortie flying in a Rafale today.
That's right. Pictures are of the President at the Ambala base. Anytime now we will see, in fact, the President taking sortie. Talk to us about how long this is going to take. Shivani, and what more details that you can share with you at this point in time. We're also, in fact, putting up pictures of the time when she had undertaken a sortie in Sukhoi. This was way back in 2023. Shivani.
Yeah, see, we are seeing these pictures. President is in the attire of a pilot, a fighter pilot, in fact, and it needs a lot of energy. It needs a lot of fitness to be a part of this kind of a sorting in a fighter jet. And there you see the pilots accompanying her when she's taking her seat or in the cockpit. So this is how President Droupadi Murmu, who's been very active in terms of taking sortie in 2023, also on a C-30 in Assam Air Base. Today, we can see these pictures from 2023, and soon she will be in Ambala Air Base, where she will once again prepare for this special sortie in a Rafale fighter jet. Rafale fighter jets that were inducted in 2020 in India. They are based in Ambala. One of their squadrons is in Ambala. Another one is in the east, Hashimara, West Bengal. So now when President Droupadi Murmu will be here, this will once again prove that the Supreme Commander has a great confidence on the pilots, on the fighter jets, and we've also taken and seen a lot of propaganda happening around Rafale, especially after Operation Sindoor, when a false narrative was floated by Pakistan. So we not only reported Sneha from Ambala Air Base, we showcased what is the progress of these Rafale fighter jets, but we've also been showing that there are a number of fake narratives by Pakistan that were busted, not only by the satellite pictures that have been given out by Indian agencies, the satellite agencies, but now, when President Droupadi Murmu will be flying a sortie in Rafale, this will again give out a very strong message to Pakistan, which has been giving out false fake narratives, especially after being damaged and destroyed by Indian armed forces during Operation Sindoor. So
Right.
this is how the Indian Armed Forces Supreme Commander Droupadi Murmu will also be meeting and greeting at the people, the personnel out there at the Ambala Air Force Station, which happens to be a strategically very important one, Sneha. And then she will be taking this sortie. This will take around 20 to 25 minutes. So this will be an important sortie. But before she actually goes into air, a lot of preparation has to be done. She has to dress up in that overall the attire of the fighter pilot, and then she will take her seat in the cockpit of the Rafale fighter jet. She will be accompanied by Air Chief Marshal. Also, she'll be meeting the Air Chief Marshal AP Singh, who's already been seen taking a sortie in the MiG-21s before they were retiring last in August, in September, Sneha. So once again, all eyes will be on President Droupadi Murmu's special sortie on this Rafale fighter jet that happens to be one of the major workhorses for the Indian Air Force.
That's right. We have these pictures coming in on the Ambala airbase, and this is going to take a while, given that Shivani did mention that she has to obviously get into the overall and then take a place in the cockpit. But talk to us about the jet. High speed, standard weaponry, multi-mission flexibility, air-to-air refueling. This attempt by the president is also to put the spotlight on the jet that Rafale really is, isn't it, Shivani?
Certainly, yes, Neha. See, when it comes to Rafale, they are the 4.5 generation fighter jets that India possesses, the most modern and capable ones, which we inducted in 2020. We started inducting in 2020, and most lethal ones, because the way they hit the targets inside Pakistan's deep territory and coming back safely, the pilots, their skill, their courage, the kind of complex operations they can take. So Rafales have been one of the most important and crucial parts. We call them the game changers for Indian Air Force, because everybody talks about the fighter squadron strength of the Indian Air Force. So since the induction of Rafales, they've been a part of major operations. They've been deployed along the line of actual control after the 2020 Galwan clashes. They've been a part of international exercises too. They've been flying sorties that show their endurance, their lethality, their complex maneuvering, the kind of weapon systems that can be integrated into Rafale. So when President Droupadi Murmu, she has already reached Ambala, and we can see these pictures, Sneha, where she has been received by Air Chief Marshal AP Singh, the Chief of Air Staff. She will be meeting the personnel and, in fact, the heroes of Operation Sindoor too, because Rafale, the Ambala Air Base happens to be one of the major bases of the Rafale jets, one of the important bases on the Western Front, and Rafales had taken off in Operation Sindoor also. So they were a part of Operation Sindoor, very much a part of Operation Sindoor, and the false propaganda also that we heard about Rafale. And then during a number of press conferences now, the Air Force chief said that we've already hit around 13 aircraft of Pakistan. And BrahMos missile systems and Rafale jets, all these were the heroes of Operation Sindoor. So today, when President Droupadi Murmu is in Ambala, she'll be shortly taking a sortie. She'll be preparing for that sortie, because it's not easy to take a sortie in a fighter jet. You need to be fit enough. You need to be courageous enough. You should have that energy to take that sortie. So President Droupadi Murmu is sending across a very strong message about not only her endurance, courage, but also the endurance of the Rafale fighter jets that are a part of the Indian Air Force, which happens to be one of the most capable air forces of the world. So President Droupadi Murmu, she will be meeting the personnel along with the air chief, also the senior officers, the airmen out there. She will be reviewing the security situation, because Zambala happens to be a strategic air base in Haryana, from where complex operations and missions take place. So she will be taking the sortie, and then she will be giving that strong message, as I was saying, Sneha, to the Pakistani forces also, and to the forces in the world, that India's capability, India's alertness is ever high. And the Operation Sindoor, as the defense minister and the chiefs have been saying, it continues and the forces are prepared for any kind of challenge and threat.
Right, also the message that our defense is a peace, deterrence, and for securing the nation, isn't it, Shivani?
You see, India is a peace-loving country, but at the same time, when we talk about the posture of India, it has drastically changed, especially in last few years. Now we are no more defensive. We give a very strong message too when it is required, and that's what been the doctrine is all about. The new doctrine that India believes in, that any act of terror will be taken as an act of war. And we are ready. We are deterrent enough with our latest indigenous infrastructure, latest indigenous inductions in terms of drones, weapon systems. But we all, at the same time, we have these Rafale fighter jets that we procured from France in 2020, 36 of them, who are a part of two squadrons, one in Hashimara, West Bengal, to secure the eastern Ladakh side and the eastern front, and another one on the western front in Ambala. So we are prepared. We have our procurements. We talk of peace. Even with China, we have been in a dialogue to resolve the issues. But we've shown Pakistan that if any kind of misadventure it enters into, we are prepared and we know how to teach a very strong lesson. So this India is a different India with different military posturing of not only being a peace-loving one, but ready for any kind of action and eventuality with the operations like Operation Sindoor. So
That's
when
right.
President Droupadi Murmu is in Ambala, it's a very important and strategic message too. It should be read into a very important message from India that India is prepared for any kind of action. It is one of the world's best militaries. It believes in synergy now, the Indian Army, Navy, and the Air Force. And the Indian Air Force Chief, AP Singh, who has already said that we have given a very strong response to Pakistan by damaging at least 13 of its aircraft of different sorts. So now, when Pakistan was talking about the false narrative of shooting down our aircraft, this is a very strong message when President Draupadi Murmu, she will be taking a sortie in Rafale, which were the game changers for the Indian Armed Forces and also the heroes of Operation Sea.
Confidence on Rafale and the message, the symbolism of unity, and also importantly, because it was the star of Operation Sindoor, the gratitude for our forces, isn't it? I think that is a message also importantly that is being sent by the president here today. Shivani.
There we've seen that defense minister, all the chiefs, they've been on ground after Operation Sindoor, especially on the locations from where the operation was launched. And now, when President Droupadi Murmu is in Ambala, she will be meeting, she will be interacting with those air officials. She will be meeting those men on ground, the pilots who were a part of Operation Sindoor. She will be meeting, acknowledging, and appreciating, and showing that confidence and the message of gratitude she will be carrying from the nation towards these heroes who've kept the borders secured, who've kept the pride of the nation high as ever. And this is, in fact, a very strong signal that how the nation reveres its heroes in the uniform. And when President Draupadi Murmu, who happens to be the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, she is amongst those men, she is among those people, she is not only acknowledging their valor, she's taking that feeling of thankfulness from the country to these men and also proving the progress and the alertness of the forces, especially when it comes to the force like Indian Air Force, that has been a very important part of Operation Sindoor. We've seen how even after in Balakot also we saw the strikes that took place after the attack had happened in Pulwama, and now in Operation Sindoor once again the Indian Air Force has proved that not only it is relevant in today's warfare of drones and technique, but also prepared for any kind of action. And the pilots who train hard, the pilots who keep the borders secure, they are ready for action for the call of the duty of the nation. And Rafales that have been the newest part of the Indian Air Force's fleet are capable enough, are powerful enough, and the president herself has that confidence of taking that sortie in the Rafale fighter jets. I don't remember, Sneha, that apart from India, many other presidents of the world have taken these kind of sorties with, with their respective air forces, even if we talk about the neighbors. But India, Indian leaders, Indian armed forces leaders, their chiefs, the president, the defense minister, they've been taking these sorties and they've been giving out that message of belief in the forces, the gratitude from the nation towards these forces, and the indulgence of being a part of these forces on a regular basis, of talking to them, interacting with them, giving that minister, how the prime minister, how the chiefs, they were on ground on the frontiers during Diwali. So this is another message from the president when she will be with these pilots, with these fighter pilots and men on ground, the Air Force crew in Ambala. She'll be talking to them. She'll be reviewing the security situation and also the preparedness of the Indian Air Force on ground from where they take the complex missions and operations. And she will be taking this sortie. So this will be another remarkable sortie by President Droupadi Murmu, where she not only portrays the woman power of the country, the power of a president, and also the power of the Indian Air Force. So this is how this is very important and significant. We can already see the picture of President Droupadi Murmu taking that salute in Ambala, and shortly she will be preparing to dress up as a fighter pilot. She will be there in the Rafale's cockpit to take that special sortie today.
Right, be with us, Shivani. I'm just going to come back to you in a moment from now. We'll just dip into these pictures coming in from Ambala.
And she will be having a sortie around 20 to 25 minutes to understand how our officer they are carrying the operation, and specifically during this operation
Pictures are from Ambala right now, where Shivani is getting in the details of President Droupadi Murmu undertaking a sortie today in the Rafale jet. Remember, the star of Operation Sindoor. I'm also, in fact, going to go across to our colleague Gaurav Sawant, getting in more on that big story that we're tracking any time now, Gaurav. We will be seeing President Droupadi Murmu undertake that sortie, and of course, this is replete with symbolism, a message of unity and respect for our armed forces. Isn't it also confidence on the Rafale jet, the star of Operation Sindoor in that sense?
You're absolutely right. It's a guard of honor being given to President Droupadi Murmu, and the fact that she'll be flying Dassault Rafale. It's a twin-engine Canard Delta-wing multi-role fighter aircraft. It's designed for air superiority. It's designed for ground attack, reconnaissance, nuclear deterrence. It is one of the most capable aircraft in the world. It's the 4.5 generation aircraft. India, after a long delay, finally went in for procurement of 2 squadrons of the Rafale in an emergency purchase, and then 2 more for the Indian Navy, Rafale Marines. So in all, India will have about, close to 58 or 60 of these aircraft in times to come. It's a very, very capable aircraft. You're absolutely right about its role in Operation Sindoor and Pakistan's lies about downing the Rafale. And this just goes on to show that Rafale is actually seen as a game changer. But it's not just one aircraft. This is the capability of the Indian armed forces that work in as a team. So, whether you have the Rafales or the Sukhoi 30s with the BrahMos supersonic cruise missiles operating the surface-to-air missile systems, the S-400 system, the Akash-Tir system, the integrated air defense command and control system, all of them working in tandem, helped defeat Pakistan during Operation Sindoor. And if we were to talk about the capabilities, look, President Droupadi Murmu flying it is hugely symbolic. keep in mind, in 2023, she's already flown the Sukhoi 30 MKI. The made in India Sukhois, of course, and the licensed manufacturer from Russia. The Su-30 MKIs will be the backbone of the Indian Air Force. And if we were to talk about the Rafales right now, with a 1.4 Mach speed without afterburners, combat radius of close to 2,000 kilometers, 1,800 kilometers. They can fly extremely high, 50,000 feet, top speeds about 1.8 Mach. Its avionic sensors are supposed to be really modern. The active electronic scanned array radar, the ISA radar, the REB2s, the Spectra electronic warfare suite, threat detection, jamming, all of that just make this aircraft a very, very capable weapons platform. And the amount of weapons it can carry is huge. It's a huge aircraft, 14 hardpoints for a large number of, a large array of weapons it can carry. The Meteor beyond visual range missiles, the Mica air-to-air missiles, the Scalp cruise missiles. It can also carry the naval version Exocet, the anti-ship missiles. We are told, that the Indian version of the Rafales is also nuclear capable, hardpoints for nuclear capable missiles. So imagine if it can carry up to 9 tons, more than 9 tons of weapons. It just shows what a potent weapon platform it is. Sneha.
Well, absolutely. Staying with these pictures coming in from the Ambala airbase, soon we will see the president get into that overall. And of course, undertake that sortie when she gets into the cockpit. Gaurav, not the first time she's done it. In fact, in the past, she also undertook a sortie in the Sukhoi. Something that other presidents have done as well, isn't it? But Rafale, this is a first for the president of the country.
This is a show of strength by India, and it's a response. To those who may question, one, the capability of the aircraft, and two, believe the propaganda that Pakistan and weapons lobbies across the world are trying to spread. What was Operation Sindoor all about? It was, in a way, the Western weapon systems or the French weapon systems versus either American or Chinese weapon systems and platforms. So a lot of commentary that you hear in public domain is all about how many planes did India lose. But what should the commentary actually be is how much India was able to hit Pakistan and who sought a ceasefire. So when you look at the Rafales, they were able to perform in 2020. You'd recall when Galwan happened, these Rafales were seen as a shot in the arm for the Indian Armed Forces. Before that, in 2019, when Balakot happened and when Wing Commander Abhinandan's incident had taken place, that time the commentary from aviators was, if India had the Rafale, Pakistani aircraft would not have dared come so close, which is something that we saw, that by the 10th of May, Pakistan Air Force was not flying at all. Given the number of Pakistani fighter jets, advanced airborne early warning and command and control systems that were down both in the air and on ground, and also their fighter jets, both F-16s and the JF-17s of the Pakistan Air Force, they were down. 11 air bases, 6 radar stations and 9 terror camps that were hit. That just goes on to show that India was able to not just punch holes in Pakistan's air defense, but bomb them both in the air and on ground and have air superiority. Of course, it's the information battle where India still needs to dominate, Sneha.
Well, absolutely. We're staying with these pictures coming in. Gaurav, to tell our viewers and do talk to us about this, our sortie is really not just a flight. It, in many which ways, is representative of dedication, professionalism and skill, isn't it, of all our warriors?
Right. I mean, look at the Narendra Modi government's trust in the Air Force. When I was covering the Kargil war in 1999, use of air power was seen as massive escalation. And that time, the Air Force had been ordered not to hit across the line of control or not to fly across the line of control, even though Pak-occupied Kashmir is also Indian territory in illegal occupation of Pakistan. And look at how things have changed had changed by 2019, where Air Force was ordered not just to fly across the line of control, but hit across the international border in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province of Pakistan. That was 2019. So from 1999 to 2019, India's thinking had completely changed, and that was Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the defense establishment's total reliance on air power and air supremacy, and not just air superiority. hit the enemy in his deepest territory and all your aircraft come back safe. That shows confidence. Point one. Point two, cut to 2025, where Air Force went and hit 9 terror camps. Sneha, we have been victims of Pakistan state-sponsored radical Islamist terror for decades. But for the first time ever, Muridke and Bahawalpur were hit. That was effective employment of air power. Then Pakistan's air defense system, their radars, whether in Pasloor or in Malir cantonment, they were targeted. Again, that shows your air power is superior to Pakistan and you were able to punch holes in Pakistan's air defense system. And then on the 9th, 10th May, if you were able to hit Pakistan's command and control system, you were able to hit them in Noor Khan, in Jacobabad, in Sargodha, in Bolari, in Sindh, in Rahim Yar Khan, in Jacobabad, Mushaf, Murid, Rafiki, all their, imagine 11 air bases and airfields and command and control systems were targeted by the 10th of May, and Pakistan was not even flying anymore on the 10th of May. Look at how the story changed in 88 hours from 6th of May to 10th of May. That shows the importance of air power, and that's exactly on display once again today. And I will not be surprised when you see the tail number of these aircraft and the aircraft that are flying to the United States for an exercise. All of that would indicate, India sending across a very subtle but a firm message of India's air power.
Absolutely. These are pictures coming in. Again, Gaurav, to tell our viewers and take them through these visuals coming in from Ambala at this point in time. We're also putting out the pictures of the President when she had undertaken that sortie in Sukhoi in the year 2023. On the right side are pictures from the Ambala airbase. Of course, the message to citizens also comes in today, Gaurav, with the President undertaking this sortie. Every citizen taking pride in the courage, discipline and professionalism of our defense forces. The President's participation, sending out a message on the reliability of Rafale and how this really is a deterrent against aggression, isn't it?
It indeed is a deterrent against any aggression, because every enemy air force will calibrate its policy and recalibrate its policy, as will India, for future combat. Every air warfare is different from the last one. The next one will be far more intense. It will be far more versatile. Anyway, if you see, the nature of warfare is changing. Instead of contact, you don't even now cross the line of control or international border to get into the enemy territory to bomb it. Now you have long-range standoff weapons. You have your beyond visual range missiles, and each country is now trying to acquire, and India is trying to make missiles that will hit deep inside enemy territory without crossing the international border. So the nature of warfare is changing, and that is why these modern aircraft are essential. The need for these modern aircraft was felt immediately after the Kargil War in 1999-2000, and finally the acquisition started happening in 2017-18 and continues to happen through 25, 26, 27, the Rafale Marines. What does this indicate? That unfortunately in India there's a very long delay in acquisition of aircraft. Because of technology denial, there's also a massive delay in manufacturing of fighter jets in India, like Tejas, the light combat aircraft. 1984, the effort started, and even now we just have a couple of squadrons, and then the process of upgrade is now underway. Mark 1A, when will it be weaponized? And then Tejas Mark 2, it just would go on to. One, we need better technology. We need better capabilities. You cannot rely just on, foreign-made fighter aircraft like Rafale. The fuselage is to be made in India in the coming times, and that's a huge boost. But it's the fighter jet engines that India requires that will be an absolute game changer in future air warfare.
That's right.
Neha.
Gaurav, I'm just going to come back to you in a moment. I'm also bringing in our colleague Sandeep Unithan in this discussion on the importance, Sandeep, of this sortie, really highlighting the capability of our armed forces, of the Rafale platform, most importantly, which has capabilities in the sense that something Gaurav also mentioned and changed the nature of the game is long-range strike capability, multi-role missions in air-to-air, air-to-ground operations.
Absolutely. And this is President Murmu's second sortie in a fighter aircraft. She earlier took a sortie in a Sukhoi 30 MKI at Tezpur Air Force Station in the east in Assam. That was in April 2023. And here she is in a Rafale here in Ambala on the Western Front. Multiple messages out of this sortie. The first one, of course, is that the government wants to convey the fact that if there is a crisis, it will use the Air Force as an instrument of state power. It will be the first instrument possibly that it will use. And this is a marked change from the past. Now, the Indian Air Force rules the fact that the Indian Air Force fighter jets were not used in the 1962 war with China more than 60 years ago. And that could have had a different outcome. That war in 1962 could have had a different outcome if the Indian Air Force fighter jets had been used. And what the government is basically signaling is that, air power is usually, it is a very offensive instrument of state power. And it doesn't fit in the thing of a defensive mindset. And what the government is signaling is the fact that with air power, as we've seen in the past, in whether it is a Balakot strike of 2019, where the Indian Air Force crossed the international boundary for the first time, or in 2020 in Ladakh with the standoff with China, where the Indian Air Force was literally the first forces on the ground. They were deployed in full strength to deter any possible Chinese misadventure, and all the way down to 2025 in Operation Sindoor, where the Indian Air Force carried out an outstanding role in paralyzing Pakistan's military, attacking its bases, radar sites, and of course the 9 terror training sites which they crippled. And this is a very big step, and the fact that the use of the Air Force, the use of air power, the use of what several air power analysts call calibrated offensive air power, COAP, is something that this government should take full credit for, because it has kind of instilled the fear of a retaliation from India that could come from the ground, from the air, or from the sea. And in this case, it happens to be air power that is being used. So it also signals the fact that a lot of force accretion is now going to be for the Air Force. As Gaurav mentioned, that there have been several projects in the pipeline. The Indian Air Force has suffered for several years now. Its squadron strengths have been depleting. It stands after the MiG-21 retirement. It's just 29 squadrons, which is the number of squadrons that it had during the 1962 war with China. But now the government is committed to increasing the Air Force's numbers, both through domestic acquisitions, the LCA Mark 1A, several hundreds of them have been acquired, and of course Rafale jets to meet the to plug the gap between the indigenous fighter programs and of course the falling squadron strength.
Will absolutely be with us, Sandeep. I'm also going to be bringing in my colleague Kamal, joining us with the very latest on that story from Ambala. This, of course, primarily is being seen, Kamal, as a domestic symbol of strength, but also conveys to other parties, external parties, that India is vigilant, capable, and determined to uphold, peace via strength in that sense, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. And 36 Rafales were delivered way back in December 2022. But during Operation Sindoor is when they were fully activated, and we saw a superior air force taking on Pakistan. So this is where the golden arrows, as they are stationed right there in Ambala. Then the rest of the set is in Hashimara in West Bengal. So they have shown their military might, and this is where the Supreme Commander really comes in. It not only will boost the morale of the forces coming at a very important and a pivotal time, but her experiencing it. Remember, this is at a high altitude, a super jet. It's a multiple roles combined into one, and remember, several of those particular parts were accommodated to be conditioned as per the Indian settings. So that upgrade also happened sometime in 2025, and this is going to be very important and significant because remember, she is here to not only experience this but also to boost the morale of the forces who are very much stationed in Ambala, and it's a very pivotal sector as far as this entire arrangement is concerned. But clearly, her coming in early this morning, and in some time from now, by around 11:30 is what we expect her to take that particular sortie. And again, as I mentioned to you, the Dassault Rafale, French twin engine, this is where the superior might comes in, and remember, combining with the Indian Armed Forces as well as the Indian Air Force strength, and that's what we also saw, the number of gallantries which were given especially to the Indian Air Force. But this is a combined strength that we see of the armed forces, where Indian Air Force really taking on, and also at a time where MiG has been retired. That also happened in Chandigarh some time back. But here is a time where the Indian Air Force at this point of time firmly in position, and those 36 Rafales doing its job really well. And we saw that sort of propaganda coming in from Pakistan during Operation Sindoor regarding Rafale. But here it is, the superior might being seen, the morale being boosted by the Supreme Commander of India.
That's right. Kamal getting in those details from Ambala at this point in time. Kamal, just take us through, give us a viewers a sense of, the time that the sortie will also take, and apologies for that, and how soon will we see the president in the cockpit?
Well, definitely, because remember, she is here, and by 11:30 is the time what we do expect and anticipate her to take that particular sortie. The Air Force Chief AP Singh himself is there. Remember the air versatility, the sort of strikes on ground that this particular plane can do, and it's a fighter jet. So in that particular sense, it's the superior might, and this is not just about holding that command. It's also about experiencing about what these experienced Air Force pilots going in, and so she's going to be strapped in. She's going to be part of that particular flight, and remember, it's going to be historic. A woman president at the helm of affairs, participating. Earlier she's done Sukhoi, but now is the time that she has given a go-ahead, and she's going to be part of that Rafale sortie. So clearly, Air Force looking forward to that. It's a big day. It's a historic day. Remember, the Rafales came in way back in 2022, and the Golden Arrow, the 17th squad, which is very much stationed in Ambala, is the one. So this is where what we see is the superior might of Air Force, the versatility we saw, especially during Operation Sindoor, also getting a first-hand experience of what's really happening in. So clearly, the combat role of this particular fighter jet is something which is being much talked about, and this is where she gets a first-hand experience of it.
It's right. Kamal, be with us. I'm just going to come back to you in a moment from now. Anytime we will see the president in that sortie on board Rafale. Of course, this matters in terms of the strategic importance, capability, and importantly, the symbolism, the message being sent out to not just the domestic, the domestic audience, but also to external parties. Sandeep, talk to us a little about how India's position has always been about not using its strength to provoke conflict, but being prepared. And that's a message of preparedness that is being sent by President Murmu today.
Absolutely. And given the fact that it's going to be nearly 6 months from Operation Sindoor, and the operations are ongoing according to the Indian military, and this is actually a part of deterrence to show Pakistan that not to try anything, no misadventures in this period, because there is a tremendous amount of pressure at this moment on the Pakistan military on multiple fronts. Whether it is internal or it's external from Afghanistan. They're fighting a border conflict with Afghanistan that's on and off. They have internal insurrections in Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And as we've seen in the past, whenever the Pakistan military comes under a lot of internal pressure and also on the border, it tends to carry out a diversionary attack in India. We've seen that in the past. In 2001, the parliament attack. In 2008, when they attacked Mumbai. This is India's warning to the Pakistan military that do not think that something like this will go unpunished. If you carry out an attack of this sort, there will be retaliation, and that retaliation will be very swift and decisive. So it is a part of signaling to the Pakistan military as well, which is, as I mentioned, under tremendous pressure, but also believes that because of its newfound bromance with the United States, it believes it has a window of opportunity which it can exploit to try and get away with needling India in a military attack or in a in a terror attack of the kind that we saw in Pulwama. So this is part of messaging, and we've seen the Indian political leadership, the Indian military leadership consistently messaging Pakistan over the last couple of weeks. We've seen unprecedented statements coming from Defense Minister Rajnath Singh, the Army Chief General Trivedi, and of course the Air Force and the naval chiefs warning Pakistan against any misadventure. And as of now, there is a tri-services exercise that is underway in Gujarat and Rajasthan. It's called Trishul 2025. It's meant to test the readiness of the three services, the Army, the Navy and the Air Force. There will be fighter jets deployed there, Sukhoi 30s, Rafales, naval warships, an infantry division backed by armor, and the howitzers will be deployed to test India's readiness, its capability, and of course its willingness to defend its southwestern flanks with Pakistan. So multiple messaging, and the timing of President Murmu's flight is part of that messaging, that politico-military messaging that India is sending out to Pakistan to deter any misadventure from GHQ Rawalpindi.
Absolutely, Sandeep, be with us. Once again, going back to these pictures coming in from the Ambala airbase a few moments ago, where the president arrived at the airbase, and now getting ready for the sortie. I'm being told these are live pictures coming in. The president already in that overall and moving towards the fighter jet, the Rafale jet. Of course, the sortie is being undertaken by President Droupadi Murmu. It's in fact, she had undertaken a similar sortie the last time around. Was in the year 2023, and this was on board, I beg your pardon, Sukhoi. The Rafale and its induction to the Indian Air Force, reflecting India's strategic partnerships, aspirations for domestic defense industry growth. The sortie, a message of the advanced capability of the platform that Rafale is outfitted for multi-role missions, air-to-air and air-to-ground operations, and long-range strike capability. It's a strong symbol of confidence in the Air Force, the aircraft, and the service personnel. All right, on your screens, a visual opportunity, a photo opportunity there right now with the president all set. I'm going to go back to Kamal to take us through the details of pictures coming in from the Ambala airbase at this point in time, where the president looks all set in that overall soon to go on board Rafale. Kamal. Connect with her in a moment from now, but these are the last minute arrangements being made for the president to ready her to get into the cockpit. And these are pictures coming in from Ambala airbase. If I could ask Sandeep also to take us through those pictures coming in of the president getting ready, dear Sandeep.
Well, absolutely. And, President Murmu is one of the rare presidents to have got multiple sorties. As you mentioned, that she flew 2 years ago in a Sukhoi 30 in the northeast, and now she's flying in a Rafale. So the Rafale and the Su-30 MKIR, the two frontline aircraft in the Indian Air Force's inventory, the two strike aircraft, the two primary strike aircraft. Of course, you have the LCA, but those have not been inducted in large numbers. There are only two squadrons of them. And of course, you have the Mirage 2000, a very capable aircraft from the 1980s, which has been consistently upgraded. But the Rafale is literally the tip of the spear when it comes to multi-role, fighter aircraft missions. It's not only an air-to-air fighter, it's an interceptor. It can carry out strike missions, that is air-to-ground missions. It can carry anti-ship missiles to have maritime attacks, to carry out maritime attacks. So it's a multi-role aircraft. It's the kind of aircraft that the Indian Air Force wants more numbers of. There is a requirement for something like 114 Rafales, which the Indian Air Force is projecting. The Indian Navy, of course, has also bought the Rafale for its aircraft carriers, the Vikrant and the Vikramaditya. There's 28 Rafales that the Indian Navy has purchased, which it will take delivery of towards the end of this decade. So in a sense, the Rafale is an aircraft like the Mirage 2000, which was acquired by India in the 1980s, a very capable multi-role aircraft, which continued in service for more than 4 or 5 decades. And clearly the Rafale will be the successor to the legacy of the Mirage 2000, given the numbers that we are already operating and will possibly operate well into this century. So President Murmu back again in very familiar gear, which is a flying suit, that olive green flying suit that she donned once more. She donned once again after two-year gap. The Supreme Commander of the Indian military, signaling her readiness, her desire to be with the troops, to encourage them, especially the troops along the western boundary facing Pakistan. Ambala is a key Air Force base. It overlooks Pakistan. It was targeted by Pakistan unsuccessfully, of course, during the Operation Sindoor 88-hour conflict with Pakistan. So India, again, sending multiple messages. The President of India, the Supreme Commander of the Indian military, taking a sortie in a frontline Indian Air Force aircraft, the Rafale, in Ambala, within possibly sight of Pakistan. And Pakistan will be watching this flight very closely for various reasons. The Rafale is something that has spooked them, and they've gone all out to launch a propaganda war, talking about downing multiple Rafales and all that. So, that also tells you about the mindset of the Pakistan Air Force. They only exist to counter the Indian Air Force in the sky. But, of course, as we've seen during Operation Sindoor, that massive rampage by the Indian Air Force on the 10th of May shattered multiple Air Force, Pakistan Air Force ground installations, air bases, radar sites, command and control centers. These are some of the most significant attacks post-1971, and all in a span of under 30 minutes. It's remarkable, the width and depth and expanse of this attack carried out in such a short span of time by Indian Air Force aircraft that stood off on our side of the international boundary and launched their missiles, primarily the BrahMos air-to-ground missiles, and targeted these air bases very easily, and signaled that India would, when it came to escalating, India was on top of what they call escalation dominance over Pakistan. And it was Pakistan on the 10th of May that sought U.S. intervention and signaled its readiness to de-escalate and go into a ceasefire. Of course, Pakistan has built up its propaganda ever since to suggest that it had the upper hand in that. But very clearly, soldier to soldier, or airman to airman, or pilot to pilot, the Pakistan Air Force understands that it was completely outgunned, it was outmaneuvered, and it was out-BrahMosed by the Indian Air Force.
With us, Sandeep, I'll come back to you in a moment from now. A quick word also from my colleague Kamal, who continues to be with us. She is in Ambala right now. Kamal, take us through these pictures. I see the president is all set, in fact, to get into the cockpit at this point in time.
Well, she's definitely ascended, and we've seen her just walk up the stairs and making her entry into Rafale. Remember, Indian Air Force has a rich history of trailblazing women who served with great distinction and also paved way for gender inclusivity. But what is important is the Supreme Commander taking charge in her own hands. We've seen her do that in 2023 with Sukhoi, but today it's most significant because soon after induction in 2022, where 36 Rafales really came in, Ambala being a pivotal point. Remember, it's called the Golden Arrow, where several of the Rafales are stationed. But her coming at a point of time where Operation Sindoor is still ongoing. Remember, the main operations happened in May, but it's also an ongoing process. And her to come here to Ambala, this is where it's a significant boost to the morale of the forces. The other is obviously, it's not somebody who's just monitoring from the higher up. So she's on the ground, all set to take off. Very important messaging, not just to the Air Force, but to also the country, men and women. Because remember, the Air Force has its own strength, Rafale being one of them. This is also a certain enhancements which took place, and what we saw was Rafale in full action during Operation Sindoor, coming down on those 9 terror sites. Several of the missiles were unleashed. So this is where we actually saw a comprehensive strength of the Air Force, which also included the Rafale. And as Sandeep was talking about, why Pakistan really targeted Rafale was claiming that several of the Rafales were down. They could not really back it up with any sort of evidence. But clearly...
Pictures on your screen. I'm just going to come back to you, Kamal, of the president there getting into, in fact, the cockpit. She's all set. In just a few moments from now, we'll see President Droupadi Murmu undertake that sortie at this point in time from the Air Force Station in Ambala. President Murmu all set to fly the Rafale, and from the very base that bombed Pakistan. So symbolism replete here. I'm going to in fact get in a word also from Shivani for more on that. After Operation Sindoor, Shivani, we did see many leaders, the Prime Minister, the Defence Minister, and now the President sending out the message from the base, the very base that bombed Pakistan, isn't it?
Neha, indeed, a very strong message going there to Pakistan. And Rafale had created chaos in Pakistan, not only during the initial strikes, but after the initial strikes took place and Pakistan sent those drones towards Indian territory. Rafale created havoc. They not only damaged the air bases out there in Pakistan, they safely returned. And they gave out a very strong signal that if you dare touch Indian boundary or even if you think about that, we'll hit you and hit you very hard. So this is the first visit by Droupadi Murmu, the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, the President of India, and the second woman president, Neha, to take this sortie in the fighter jet. A very strong message indeed, because this comes right after Operation Sindoor. Remember, India today had given out that exclusive report from Ambala Air Force Station, where we not only talk to the fighter pilots of Rafale, we also show the images of the Rafale, the operations, how they take and prepare for the twin-engine 4.5 generation, most powerful and lethal fighter jet India possesses. The two squadrons, one of them being in Ambala, the other one in Hashimara in West Bengal. So integrated with all these visual, beyond visual range missile systems, including the Astra and the other missile systems where Rafales have been very strong and the heroes of Operation Sindoor, as they've been calling them, Sneha. So President is all set. She can be seen in that overall, taking her place in the cockpit, where she will be taking this sortie in Rafale for the first time. She's already taken a sortie in 2023 in Sukhoi 30 that happened in the Assam air base, one of the very important area that sortie was also very important. So once again, she is in Rafale. She is taking this sortie and she's giving out that strong message to Pakistan too, and busting that propaganda once again, where Pakistan tried its hard to tell the world with that fake narrative that it had downed India's Rafale. So these Rafales are not only intact, they are flying high with that progress and showcasing the strength, the alertness, and the kind of courage our fighter pilots possess, along with the direction of the Defense Minister, the chiefs of the Army, Navy, and the Air Force, has shown tremendous synergy during this operation. And now, when President Droupadi Murmu is leading the way of flying this Rafale in this sortie, happens to be one of the very important messages yet again, as we've been hearing those statements from the chief, the defense minister, whenever they are visiting these crucial frontier front lines and also the bases where the same operations Sindoor is still going on. So this is indeed another strong message that goes with this sortie of President Droupadi Murmu when she will be flying shortly in this Rafale fighter jet that happens to be one of the game changers for Indian Air Force since 2020, since their industry started happening. So now, from Ambala's Air Force Station, we will be taking this sortie. This is not very easy, Sneha. We need to understand that pilots train for this sortie for years and months. And President Droupadi Murmu, she is taking this sortie. This takes a lot of courage, a lot of energy. Being fit is another message out here. And the second woman president to take this sortie also gives out a very strong message how there is now gender neutrality and the forces are now going towards gender neutrality. They are giving equal opportunities to the women in the forces, and we've also seen the participation in operations in day where the women officers, they not only led the operations at a number of places, but they also led the briefings where we saw the officers briefing about the operations in those. So now President Droupadi Murmu is all set to take this sortie and give that strong message to Pakistan and to the world that Indian Air Force is one of the world's best, and also busting the fake agenda of Pakistan with a strong, capable force of the Indian Forces.
That's right. We have these visuals coming in for our viewers who've just joined us. Let us take them through what's really happening at this point in time. On our screens, we have President Droupadi Murmu's sortie in the Rafale jet right now in the cockpit. Any moment now, she will be undertaking that sortie. Of course, the arrangements have been made. She is by that or through that sortie in a way sending out an important message, and that is what we've been discussing, because this is extremely important from the point of view of sending out a message to our domestic audience and also to those outside about India's preparedness in terms of keeping its borders secure. Remember, Rafale was the star of Operation Sindoor, and from the very air base, the president is now undertaking that sortie. That was the air base from which India had bombed Pakistan. Pictures on your screen are of President Droupadi Murmu at the Ambala air base at this point in time.